Hello and welcome to Between the Ropes TV, and it's just me and Josh, as you can see today. And we're going to start by just talking about the fight card last night and just a short little video for a rundown of the results. So we're going to start with Tommy Fury. And what do you make of his performance, Josh?
I thought he was a bit basic, similar to his last fight out. Anthony Taylor, he's one of Jake Paul's sparring partners, isn't he? And there's more talking a bit more from an MMA background. So really, I thought this was an opportunity for Tommy Fury, particularly when you're chasing that payday with Jake Paul. You needed to go out and sort of put on a bit of a performance, didn't he, and get a good stoppage. He didn't do it. He did win every round, to be fair. So comfortable win. He didn't look like he'd been in a fight. He's fresh. He'll go again quite quickly, won't he?
Yeah.
So I think we'll have to come back onto him later.
I just think you expect him to win every round, but you expect him to just look good doing it. Like you say, he's fighting someone from MMA background, 12 fights in MMA, 7 wins. It's still not a great MMA record. And you just expect him to look good doing it, and unfortunately he didn't. But next we have Conwell, who was a third round knockout. What do you make of that one?
As predicted, I think I said from the little bits we'd seen, Charles Conwell would win. We gave a little bit of respect to this, didn't we? Because two undefeated, not prospects, but sort of up and coming fighters. So it's great to see him fight. It was a decent little fight, to be fair, I thought. Charles Conwell moves on. I'm sure we'll be hearing more of him. I just hope he can. We're hearing a lot about these emerging US talents. And I just want to start seeing them on better cards. Do you know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
We just need to see a bit more from them, and in their division, they could come and mix it up over in the UK with what DAZN are doing now. There's opportunities, isn't there?
Yeah, of course. Right. So next got Montana Love, who beat Baranchyk, and it's the biggest win of Love's career, if you ask me. I think it's good performance, good stoppage. What do you make?
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, to be fair, I've just given it the big one about Conwell winning. I thought Baranchyk could win it. I really did. I thought he'd be too seasoned, experienced. I just thought he'd come through. He didn't. Montana Love was winning on points at the halfway mark, cranked up the pressure in the 7th, and obviously, got the TKO victory with the corner. So, I worry now for Baranchyk because he really impressed, like with the Josh Taylor fight and stuff. While Taylor, I thought, won it quite convincingly, he did well, and he was in Taylor's backyard, and I've sort of kept one eye on him since then. And he obviously lost to Cepeda, but I think this is the fight that we may look back on, and it was up at a different weight class, fine, but I think we may look back on this as he's now sort of transitioning into a gatekeeper, which I said was sort of my concern in the preview. I hope I'm wrong. You never know. We've seen, look in the UK, what we've seen with Dochi Zora. Obviously, he's bounced himself back from that position, hasn't he, a few times to land big fights. So hopefully we can see the same. And Montana Love, big respect. Even the bookies odds, to be fair, Baranchyk was by some way the favourite. So absolutely fair play to him, and he'll move on to bigger and better things now. And the welterweight division's a packed division, and wherever you go, there's fights for him, isn't there?
Yeah, well, one thing I will say is Love. It was a professional performance. I mean, like you said, he was winning the rounds. He knew that, and then he changed up and he wanted more from it. He didn't settle, and he went in there. And I must admit, it showed great maturity as well. So next we have Daniel Dubois, who first round KO. I think a lot of people might have said they expected that. Did you?
I did. When we were talking yesterday, I was I'd be within 30 seconds probably. Fair play to him. He's gone to America. We've seen US fights go wrong for Brits. Even in recent years, there's always been a little bit of a pattern of that potentially happening. So fair play to him. He's gone over. He's got the job done. But me just saying that, comparing it to other US debuts, there is a difference in the level of opponent. Cusimano, I don't think he was ever going to sort of trouble Daniel Dubois too much. I think Frank Warren's just sent him over there to try and build a little bit of an American fan base to go in with Trevor Bryan possibly next. And I was reading an article the other day, and I think it's probably right. Obviously, they're trying to push towards the Trevor and Bryan fight for the WBA situation. And I think that fight will end up happening in America because the money that you'd have to pay Bryan to come over here.
Yeah.
it's probably it wouldn't work. So I think we might end up seeing that fight over in America before the year's out.
What I like about Dubois, though, in this fight particularly, he just he kept his mouth shut to an extent. You forgot he was on the card. With all the talk and all the other fighters on the card were doing, making a big deal, he's been pretty silent. He's got in the ring, he's done the job. Who's next? And you just think, go on.
No, I was going to say, in some ways, though, he didn't need to, did he? I mean, obviously, they'll be getting paid handsomely for this fight.
Yeah.
You know, in fairness to Jake Paul and Tyron Woodley, and we'll get onto it, the one thing they have done is really sold this pay-per-view. I mean, we will get onto it, but there's a few elements that, I mean, sort of as that everyone who's seen our videos have seen, I'm not a fan of these cards, but I've got to admit, as the fight week wore on, I sort of couldn't help but sort of not suck it in, but I was definitely interested to see. And, well, we watched it in the end. So, yeah, I suppose they're the winners and we're the losers.
Right. Next, Amanda Serrano won again, which I think, even though it wasn't exactly an easy fight, she's still fighting with someone who's only 23 and Mikado has pedigree to her. She's won some fights and that she's not terrible and she's ranked quite highly. She's had belts and I'd still think Serrano, you fancy her in all the fights apart from the big ones, which are 50-50.
Yeah, I mean, Serrano dominated, didn't she? Great use of body shots. The power was ferocious. I mean, she's a 7-weight world champion. Obviously, this was at featherweight. And Ricardo's nose was gone by the end, wasn't it? It wasn't the prettiest of sights. And it's what we expect from her. And one thing that I did sort of think, and I hope it's not just me being tired from staying up all night, but I did think, Serrano's out this weekend, Katie Taylor's out next weekend. If Taylor can come through sort of unscathed injury-wise, is there an opportunity to say get that fight on in November, December?
I think there's got to be.
There's a lot of talk with Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. That's probably the other super fight in women's boxing. And there's a lot of talk about schedules not matching up. Well, this matches up perfectly, doesn't it? They've fought a week apart. Serrano's come through pretty, very handily, as we'd expect. Fingers crossed Taylor does the same. We want to see that fight now. We nearly got it at Fight Camp 1 last year. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we didn't. I want to see that fight, Ben. It's a great fight.
I don't think it's going by the end of the year.
Thanks for your negativity. Yeah.
McCaskill rematch will happen before that. She's on the DAZN broadcasting team for the fight on the weekend. She's flying over for it. She's undisputed now. She's won fights which people didn't expect her to. And she's turned it around since that Taylor fight in 2017. And I just think, if you're not going to get the Serrano fight, I think this is the second biggest fight for Taylor because even though she already beat her once, she's now undisputed, isn't she, McCaskill? She's going to be there. So I wouldn't surprise me if that gets announced rather than anything with Serrano.
Yeah, I mean, you could be right. And that, to be fair, I really want the Serrano fight, but that is still a brilliant fight and one that I'd be excited about. I do worry, though, would that be too big of a jump, possibly? Taylor, I know she went up to 140, but really her best performances have come at lightweight. I do worry if, going up to McCaskill, that could be too far. But I suppose that's what makes it intriguing, doesn't it? And that's what gets us excited for it.
Right then, on to the main event. Sure, there's some talking points here. Jake Paul beating Tyron Woodley by split decision. What do you make of the fight?
Firstly, in a fashion, I'm going to have to apologise because, as our comment section said, we've had some DMs and stuff. I went in on this fight the other day on our preview video, and I stand by a lot of the things I said. I really do as a boxing fan. But I will say, Jake Paul, he stayed in there for 8 rounds, so he won by a split decision, for anyone that doesn't know and is watching this. He won on 2 of the cards. Tyron Woodley won on the other card. Now, he stayed in there for 8 rounds. Now, there's a little bit of controversy, wasn't there, Ben? In the 4th round, Woodley Woodley clocked him. Paul fell onto the ropes. And, look at this image, guys, because it really was so blatant that only the ropes held him up and, it didn't get scored as the knockdown. So I feel like Woodley, in such a close fight, Woodley can probably feel hard done to there. But on a Jake Paul front, fair play to him. He's staying in there. I know Woodley's not a boxer, but, he's a fighter, obviously from the MMA world. So to stay in there with him for eight rounds, you've got to sort of take your hat off to that, haven't you? Because as a normal guy, we probably wouldn't be able. Well, we wouldn't be able to do it. So, I know he's had the training, and people say he's had the best camps, and everything else. But no, hats off go to him. And I think it sort of has to move on to the fight, doesn't it? I mean, a lot of talk about. Well, Woodley firstly wants the rematch. Jake Paul said he can have the rematch as long as he follows through on their bet of the I love Jake Paul tattoo. So there's a lot of talk that Woodley's going to get that on his thigh. So I mean, I suppose the bet's a bet, but good God, I wouldn't have made that bet.
I just think that's where it's not boxing anymore.
Yeah,
this kind of stuff. Like I get people. You've got some people who can't stand what's going on. You've got some people all for it. I just think, but it should just be about the boxing, not about shit. But you ain't get a rematch if you put on your leg. No, if people think you lost and you didn't do the performance you did, you want to get in there for the rematch and prove people wrong. As a boxer, you want to right your wrongs. I think that's what you should get my head around.
I completely agree. Me and you, we have similar views on a lot of things, obviously, and I just think that in a normal boxing situation, I agree with you. But in this situation, there's talk of some serious pay-per-view buys last night. Obviously, that'll get sort of released over the next week.
Yeah.
It's about the money, isn't it? In fairness to Jake Paul, he talks about the Canelo, and a guy left a comment in our preview video, and I thought, he's probably right with a lot of things. As annoying as it is for a boxing fan, Jake Paul, I think he is playing the heel, so to speak, because I watched Showtime's All Access show, and he's not as arrogant as he makes out. Like his mom was making his breakfast for him, and I think he's just a 24-year-old lad who let's go out and make a few dollars, have a career of it, and go for it. And in a sense, as annoying as it is, I don't blame him. I bought the pay-per-view. You're going to get a lot of people that are critical of it, but at the same time, it's worked for him, hasn't it? He's making a few quid. He's raising his profile for all his social media and YouTube stuff. And in fairness to him, that's the first fight that I can say I sort of respect him afterwards. I think you look at his resume. There's YouTube stars, a basketball player, obviously Ben Askren last time out, and I saw a good picture. I presume you'll probably have seen it too. On the scales, Ben Askren one side, Tyron Woodley the other. And in fairness to Woodley, say what you want about him being washed up from the MMA world, he came to fight, didn't he? Like, he was in shape. You could see that in the ring. He trained for this. You couldn't say that for Ben Askren, to be fair. I think he just turned up for the check.
Well, so, he's made it quite clear, hasn't he, Ben Askren, that is kind of what he did. I think Tyron Woodley, he trained with Mayweather. He did take seriously. He did want to beat him. But me personally, I just want him in with a box like Tommy Fury. I like him, but I don't rate him. I think with these level of opponents he's fighting, I do think he should be doing better. So I think I do want to see the Paul Fury fight, because if Paul comes out on top of Fury, then Joe, if you want to take it seriously, you've beat a boxer at the level you should be fighting against. So push on from there.
No, I totally agree. I mean, I think the damage now has sort of been done in the fact that Jake Paul didn't get the sort of spectacular knockout that we've sort of got used to seeing. Tommy Fury didn't look brilliant. It was a little bit bland. And, Anthony Taylor, you talk about his MMA record, he's nobody in boxing. If Tommy Fury's he talks about wanting to be a world champion, he needs to be stopping these people well. Last time out, it was the similar sort of situation, saying, well, he won, but it wasn't brilliant. But in fairness, that was against a fellow, undefeated young prospect boxer. So you can take that a little bit more. But, there's your opportunity last night. He's clearly going down this route. And as we said the other day, I don't blame him for wanting to go and make a few quid. But you've still got to put the performance in, haven't you? And arguably more so because the spotlight is so on him. If he was just fighting on the lower half of a BT card on a Saturday night, he could probably get away with a few of these performances.
Yeah.
But because of how, he's talking a great game, Jake Paul's talking a great game, Showtime pay-per-view in America, all the lights, all the pressure, you've got to go in there and deliver it. He's from the Fury family. Tyson Fury's done it, hasn't he? Gone over to Dusseldorf, spanked Klitschko in his own backyard. He's gone over to America, been robbed once by Wilder, and then absolutely probably one of the best heavyweight performances, certainly of our time, possibly up there of all time in the second fight. That's what we need to start seeing. And he's not even fighting that level of opponents. He's got to start and do more. it's all well and good after the fight. Oh, we had a big altercation backstage, and there's little bits of footage. I'm sure more will come out as the day goes on. But at the end of the day, it's Showtime that are going to pay for that fight.
Yeah.
If you've not performed, Showtime are going to sort of be like, "We have all the pushing and shoving you want backstage. We've got to sell that fight." I can't see how it sells that well, to be honest with you. I would think perhaps get the Woodley rematch done. If Jake Paul can come through it in more dominant fashion, and do the same again, get Tommy Fury on the undercard, and he needs to put performance. I know there's a lot of talk about a 2-fight deal with the second fight being Jake Paul, but we've got to start seeing a little bit more from him. I mean, what is he now? 7-0 with 4 knockouts.
Something like that. But for me, I just think it's the fact he didn't learn from that last fight. Like with the performance he put in and what he said after, and what all the critics have said after, you'd think he'd be a bit more like, right, I'm going to right my wrongs here. I'm going to learn from that performance, find out what I've done wrong, and I'm going to do better. And it's like he didn't. It's like he's just casually sailing through it all. And it's like, I just think he talks the talk, but he's not doing it in the ring at the moment. And Joe, at this stage, I'm on the fence. I think he could lose to Paul. I honestly think he could lose to him. And he's this boxer, and he should wipe the floor with someone who isn't. But with what I'm seeing, Jake Paul wants it more.
Yeah, see, I'll defend him a touch there because he's from the fighting family. I want to see more from him. He obviously talks a good game about wanting to be this and that. But, very, very limited amateur career. Obviously, then he's come up into the pro games. Now, it's the same as we've had this discussion with Campbell Hatton, Conor Benn early days. You're going to get the automatic platform because of your family, aren't you? So, obviously, he's got that. Frank Warren signed him. And he's been given opportunities that other fighters wouldn't have got. So I'm not going to knock him for that. So he's got to develop. But for me, him and Jake Paul, they are probably on the same sort of level. I know Jake Paul's from a different background in terms of YouTube and everything. But at the same time, in terms of boxing experience, we could research it, but they're probably sort of neck and neck. So I don't think it's cut and dry. And I'm with you. I think if that fight's in America, as we've seen last night, I thought Woodley won it. I thought, he was better. Clarissa Shields, who more qualified to sort of answer the question than her, and she felt Tyron Woodley won it. So clearly, it's a little bit of Mayweather syndrome, isn't it? If you go there in America, if you don't knock him out, you're not getting the nod. So you've got to knock him out. And if he's struggling to didn't knock out the likes of Anthony Taylor, even his last fight, Jordan Grant, I don't think he knocks Jake Paul out, and he needs a long camp, and he needs to take it seriously. I know his dad, there was a little bit of uproar, wasn't there, because his dad wasn't very happy that he'd left a couple of weeks ago. He'd left camp to go and go to his missus's mom's wedding, and his dad had sort of said, "Well, no, this isn't a party. You either do camp or you don't." So perhaps there is some discipline issues for John Fury to come out publicly and sort of say those sorts of comments. Maybe there's issues, and he needs to look at himself and think, he talks a lot about we don't need the money. I box because I want to. Well, show us you want to.
Yeah.
Because, in fairness to him, he's got it all going for him, hasn't he? Like, he's a good-looking lad from the right family. He's got the opportunity. If he puts the work in, he could be a future star of British boxing. I don't think he's got what it takes, but you'd love to. You've got to go for it, haven't you? Like, you've got. Yeah, if you get given the keys to the kingdom, you've at least got to try. So we'll see what unfolds, but yeah, I think that's all from me. I've got to be honest.
I was going to say it's a good place to wrap it up, isn't it? So thank you for everyone for watching. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. Well, same thing. But thank you for watching, and this has been Between the Ropes TV. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.